What's going on, everybody? This is Ultimate iDevice Vids, and today in this video we're going to be doing a speed and performance test between the iPhone SE 2020 and the iPhone 11 Pro. So I think this test will be particularly interesting because the iPhone SE 2020 and the iPhone 11 Pro share the same processor, which is Apple's latest A13 chip. However, the iPhone SE 2020 only has 3 gigabytes of RAM, while the iPhone 11 Pro has 4 gigabytes of RAM. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how these guys stack up against each other. And I also just want to quickly let you guys know that you should take this video with somewhat of a grain of salt, as there's numerous varying factors that contribute to how a device will perform, so results can certainly vary. Also keep in mind the iPhone SE 2020 was just recently released, so certain applications may not be fully optimized for this device just yet. So once again, results may vary over time. And with the iPhone SE 2020 on the left and the iPhone 11 Pro on the right, I just want to quickly show you guys that both of these iPhones are running the latest iOS version as of recording this video, which is iOS 13.4.1. Alright, so first up we're going to test how these devices handle launching a variety of applications consecutively one after the next. We're also going to be doing a 4K 60 frames per second 3-minute video export with iMovie. And after we launch a variety of apps and export the video, we're going to go back to the earlier applications that we launched and see which apps are still running. So as you can see here, we have some lighter, less CPU-intensive apps towards the top, and some heavier, more CPU-intensive apps towards the bottom. But alright, let's go ahead and start off with the app switchers cleared, and we'll begin with Instagram. So you can see here, with the later applications in the beginning here, they're pretty much neck and neck. You can see the iPhone 11 Pro does, have a little bit of a lead on the iPhone SE 2020 with these smaller applications, but it's really not by much. You can see they're basically on the complete same playing field with these, first applications. For whatever reason, once we reach Minecraft, the iPhone 11 Pro does hang on the opening sequence for a really long time. I'm not entirely sure what that was all about, and as I said at the beginning of the video, once again, there's certainly varying factors that contribute to how these devices will perform, so, these tests can certainly be skewed depending on just random, unpredictable factors. And of course, that delay was very minor in the grand scheme of things, but I just think it's very important to keep in mind that there's certainly unpredictable factors when doing these tests. But you can see there the SE 2020 is on to Asphalt 9, shortly joined by the 11 Pro here. And alright, SE 2020 finished up the Asphalt 9 and moving on to San Andreas. So you can certainly see here, the SE 2020 is definitely holding its own up against the iPhone 11 Pro, as to be expected with that A13 chip. Definitely very powerful devices here. But as you can see, they're wrapping up San Andreas on the SE 2020, while the 11 Pro just finishes up San Andreas. And now they're both moving on to PUBG. And alright, so starting a match on the SE 2020. And we'll do the same on the 11 Pro here. And alright, moving on to Fortnite on the SE 2020. And here we go with Fortnite on the 11 Pro. And now that both of the devices have reached the Fortnite loading screen here, the optimization and loading the game both take a really long time. So I'm just going to go ahead and speed this up here to get through this. And the iPhone 11 Pro does load Fortnite faster in both the optimizing phase and then after that just the loading of the game. It wasn't by a huge amount, but definitely a little bit faster than the SE in this case. And alright, so Fortnite just finished loading on the 11 Pro, and now we're going to move on to the 4K 60 frames per second video export on the 11 Pro. And we're going to go ahead and start that. And as you can see there, the SE 2020 just wraps up Fortnite very shortly behind the 11 Pro, and you can see there now it's moving on to the 4K export as well. Alright, so now that they're both exporting the video, I'm just going to go ahead and speed through until one of them finishes up here. Alright, so the 4K export is just about done here on the iPhone 11 Pro. So now that that's done, we could go ahead and check back in on some of the applications that we opened earlier and see what's still running. So you can see there, Instagram was not running, Twitter was running, Spotify was not. You can see there Subway Surfers was not. The next application that was open was Temple Run, and then after that, every application from Grand Theft Auto San Andreas onwards was still open. As you can see there, meanwhile, the SE 2020 just finished up the export, and checking back in on apps on the SE 2020, you could see there Instagram, Twitter, and Spotify and Subway servers were all open. So interesting result considering that it has less RAM. And you can see every other application on the SE 2020 was closed. So it was able to keep open the lighter apps, but no other application was open. And again, with the 11 Pro you saw there, Twitter was still open, Temple Run, and every application from San Andreas onwards. So that 4 gigabytes of RAM in the 11 Pro certainly shows in terms of being able to keep open all those large applications, while the SE 2020 with only 3 gigabytes definitely struggled more in that regard. And since the remainder of the applications on the SE 2020 did have to be reloaded, I'm just going to go ahead and speed through this to get through it. And alright, so let's move on to some individual app launching tests. So as you can see right here, both the app switchers are cleared, and we're going to start off with Instagram, just launching these apps at the same time. So as you can see right here, pretty much completely imperceivable as to be expected. These guys both have the A13 chip. Let's move on to Twitter as well. Pretty much exact same result here. You could see blazing fast on both, basically open at the exact same time. We'll move on to Spotify as well, and you'll see here the same result. And here's Subway Surfers. This is, again, a pretty light game, and you can see there, slight minor advantage on the 11 Pro if you really wanted to declare it, but it was literally just a split second there. Next up is Minecraft. And you can see here, in this particular instance of launching Minecraft, it actually loaded first on the 11 Pro, when in the previous instance it was kind of hanging there. So that just goes to show you there is some degree of randomness to these tests, but you can see they're actually loading the game. Basically at the same time, SE 2020 technically had it first if you wanted to declare it. Next up is Asphalt 9 here, launching them both at the same time. And alright, you can see they're basically pretty much the same time, but the 11 Pro did have just a split second of an advantage there. Here's Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Gonna launch the application here. You can see identical on that loading sequence there. We're going to go ahead and skip this little intro sequence, and we're going to start the game. And you can see here, once again, literally neck and neck, pretty much imperceivable, especially here in this intro sequence. You're going to see that they're literally on the exact same level. It's basically imperceivable. And next up, we're going to do a few stock applications. Here's the weather app here. And you can see basically the same. The 11 Pro technically got it first. Next up, we're going to go ahead and do the clock application. And you can see there, for whatever reason, there was a little bit of a lag on the 11 Pro animation. So the SE20 got that one first. Next up, here's the camera application. Basically the exact same on both. And here's the Photos app as well. Basically imperceivable, blazing fast. Alright, and now let's go ahead and run a Geekbench. I'm just going to go ahead and run both of these guys, and I'll come back to you guys when they're done with the numbers. Alright, and here are the numbers, and of course it should come as no surprise that the numbers are very similar, considering that they're powered by the same chip. The iPhone 11 Pro got a single core score of 1,335, and a multi-core score of 3,543, and the iPhone SE 2020 got a single core score of 1,336, and a multi-core score of 3,339. And next up, I also want to run an Antutu test as well, so I'll do the same thing, let this run, and I'll come back to you guys with the numbers. And once again, definitely similar scores here as to be expected. But yeah, guys, as you can see, the iPhone SE 2020 is a very powerful device, and it's definitely very compelling, again, considering that it has the same processor as the iPhone 11 series iPhones for a much cheaper price tag. But alright guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.